Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre, starring Jason Statham, Aubrey Plaza, Hugh Grant, Josh Hartnett, Carrie Elways, Bugsy Malone, and Eddie Marsan, directed by Guy Ritchie. Now, I remember going to theaters for this, and what do I think of it? Is going to be the same as what I think of it now. Let's get into the movie. We open with Nathan, played by Carrie Elways, in London walking into a meeting with some men as they talk about an assignment called The Hand when he assigns Orson, played by Jason Statham, while he's on a holiday and explains the details of this assignment in particular. Mike, as they do the job, without John, as he's replaced by someone named Sarah, played by Aubrey Plaza. In JJ, they go to Madrid, Spain, to pick them up, and Sarah seems very chatty, and I do like the characters so far, except for Sarah, as Aubrey Plaza bugs me in general, despite she's just lost her husband recently, and I do feel bad for her for that reason, but yeah, she annoys me. The job was a bust when another team, which happens to be Mike or John or whoever the hell the fuck this is, bumps into their mission and eventually beats the shit out of John's team and gets a man who has a heart condition as their van is broken into. And unfortunately, the older man dies and they meet a Ben Harris who takes a briefcase and they go on the way to Los Angeles to pick up an invitation to a party with Danny, played by Josh Hartnett, who's a movie star, and the cinematography is fine, as this is not the best looking movie from director Guy Ritchie. Danny is forced to go with Orson as he gets kidnapped for Danny's greatest role yet, as they go to Cannes, France, and get to the party as Danny is very fucking nervous to get close to Greg Simmons, played by Hugh Grant. And they get to his boat, and the boat scenes are pretty good, as the shots are pretty good throughout the movie. And the acting was interesting, in my opinion, I'll say it best. They go to a room to a bar where Mike happens to be at as he chats with Nathan while Sarah is bugging Greg's office, while bullshitting around to look at art, as when the British are on the walkie-talkie, they get subtitled because for some reason people have a hard time with their accents, which I get, as Orson gets into a fight with John's henchman, Vincent, and beats the shit out of Vincent. And like I said in Wrath of Man, you do not want to fuck with Jason Statham, while Danny has a chat with Greg and invites them to spend time with Greg over the weekend and chats with Sarah about how he believes she's bullshitting as playing the part of Michaela, and he knows she's up to something, and I got scared for them. Nathan and JJ hear the conversation between Greg and Alexander as they're up to something not good, while Nathan, Orson, Sarah, and JJ talk about what the plan is for Danny, as Orson hops into their home of Alexander's and rob the motherfucker, which was actually funny to me in a haha kind of way, as the song Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid plays in the background, and Orson almost gets caught, and I laughed at the end of that scene, as that was pretty funny. Greg gets a phone call from two different people. One was lucky to be at his party because his friends are questionable, and the other hears his guards were knocked out, and Greg was informed by a detective Amari from Turkey from the situation, and Orson, Sarah, Nathan, and JJ go to Antalya, Turkey, and send Danny and Sarah to Greg's house and see the car Danny drove in the movie, and Greg gives the car to Danny as he wanted it so fucking badly, while Orson, Nathan, and JJ go in a building together while Danny drives Greg around, and Hugh Grant plays a good villain in my opinion, while Sarah is sneaking out, and Greg's assistant knows something is up with Sarah / Michaela, and I'm on the edge of my seat at this point. Sarah goes into Greg's office and hacks into the computer she has, saying he's bought stolen art, while Mike happens to be at the same place as Orson, and JJ and Sarah shows Nathan they're going after the wrong man, while Orson follows Ben and his guard as they recognize Orson as Danny's manager. And Ben wants back up there, and now as Orson follows Ben around while riding a motorcycle and eventually crashes it and goes upstairs and encounters the wrong man, as he gave his phone to a dead man, as Ben gets thrown off by Orson, which was funny to me, as the choices being made in this movie is haha funny in my opinion. Orson gets kidnapped by John and his team while JJ falls behind him, while Danny and Sarah are still at Greg's place, as Greg is into Sarah, as Sarah tells Danny he needs to find a way to get out, as Orson talks with Alexander under a different identity, while JJ takes on aim at Alexander, and Orson calls Greg to get a code, while Danny tries to get to the garage, while Orson is wired $10 billion and gets shot at. And this movie is getting very intense for me. Orson talks on the walkie-talkie with Mike, and Sarah is encountered by Greg as he knows she's working for some spies. And she continues to bullshit him while Danny and Sarah drive out of the house, and they get encountered by a guard and lets them go, and Greg orders his guards to get them captured. And we see Mike killing Alexander's goons while he orders to kill Orson until JJ gets their asses killed, and we learn Mike has gone rogue as Danny drives the car and Sarah does the shooting at the bad guys, which is not a badass move Aubrey Plaza pulls off, as I believe was a stunt woman shooting as a stuntman driving the car. And they encounter a helicopter that carries Orson, while Orson wants to go back to Greg's place, and the second half is questionably funny in a strange way, in my opinion. Orson and Sarah meet up with Greg, while JJ is staying back, and Danny happens to be there for some reason, as that's an odd choice, while Nathan exposes the buyer, who happens to be Mike, and they go hunting for the bastard, while Danny and Greg go together to negotiate with Nathan, as Danny is playing the part of the negotiator, while Orson is running around with a gun like in a video game, while JJ goes as a sniper, and Greg shows Danny the explosion of the satellites, while Orson goes after Mike, as Greg and Danny expose Mike as the criminal mastermind. And that was a genius way to pull off the plot, and they shoot each other with Orson coming in as director Guy Ritchie does a good job at pulling off a twist plot. Orson fights the Mike to death and kills him the fuck out, and we learn Nathan abandoned them to finish the plot off, and we get to Doha as Orson, Sarah, and JJ go to Nathan, and he has another job for them, and Orson says he will go on a holiday where Sarah will get drunk, which is typical Aubrey Plaza dialogue, and credits roll to Greg acting in a scene in a movie that will never happen in life, along with Danny. But the climax was not one of the Guy Ritchie's best works. But let's see how I feel about the movie in a rating, shall we? I'll give this movie a 6.8 out of 10. I do like the characters except for Aubrey Plaza, as she annoys me in general, despite she lost her husband recently, may he rest in peace. And the cinematography is fine, as this is not the best looking movie from director Guy Ritchie, as the shots are pretty good and the acting was interesting in my opinion, and there were moments I was scared for the characters. Sometimes the movie went to a funny route, like the song Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head playing in the background, while Hugh Grant plays a good villain in my opinion, while I was on the edge of my seat when I was scared for the characters throughout while it's making haha funny choices. This movie is very thrilling and sometimes funny and intense, as the second half of the movie is questionably funny in a strange way in my opinion, as this is a recommendation for the movie, as the movie, along with director Guy Ritchie, does do a good job at pulling off any twist plot from a movie to the next. But this isn't his best work, but it was making questionable choices, but it was good but not great in my opinion. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with, let's see, the Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, that war movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. And until then, good afternoon.